Welcome back to another episode of Casa De Confidence. I have Julie with me, and you know I love talking to Julies because we are one special breed. I happen to have met this incredible individual in real life when we met at Podfest, and she does a lot of stuff that is totally aligned with me and a girl after my own heart in so many different ways. She values connection. She loves fur babies and it's a fur mama like me. But most importantly, she's out there making a difference in the lives of others. I want to introduce to you my friend, Julie Marty-Pearson. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you, Julie, my fellow Julie. I'm so happy to be here.
I know, me too, me too. And I have to say, things happened for a reason. We met during Podfest, which seems like it was 100 years ago, even though we were there in January of 2025. And I know I'm dating us. And even though this might be evergreen, it's important to put context into the conversation. But I really loved what you spoke about during your session in Pechacucha, which I always have a hard time saying. Was that your first time doing a Pechacucha?
Yeah, it was. I had only been to Podfest once before that,
Hmm.
and I didn't even see the Pichacuchas or Pechacucha, however you say it.
Right.
And but I knew that that might have been an easy step
Hmm.
in to speak. And it was a very interesting experience because it was so
Hmm.
structured that we kind of had to fit in a box. But I
Yeah.
also loved it that it was like these 3 or 4 hour block that we got to hear everybody talk so quickly.
Yeah. What I loved about it, and very similar to you, it was my first time delivering a Pechacucha, and I was at the session the year before, which was my first time at Podfest, and I loved it. And I certainly didn't think that I would be able to do it because if you know me, you know I'm a little long-winded, my friends. I have a podcast, I guess. And being able to stay within a constraint of time is one of the challenges for me. Even when I did my TEDx, that was one of the things that I kept struggling with. What? You want me to speak under what? And that was, 10 minutes. And now to do the Pachacucha, which was like 2 minutes of that, was definitely going to be a challenge for me. But I thought, you know what? I don't grow unless I challenge myself. So that's why I applied for that particular presentation. And well, shoo, it's over and it was great. I enjoyed it. How about you?
I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I went later in the
Mhm.
session, so I think that was hard because I kept hearing people do it, and in my head, I'm like, "Oh, good, do that. Oh, don't do that." And so I actually had to leave the room for a little bit before mine just to
Mhm.
kind of focus. But
Yeah.
I love the structure, and I think people don't realize how hard it is to stay within a time limit unless you have to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I stretched that muscle too because I
Mhm.
can be long-winded.
Yeah. I don't know. We have a lot to say because, we just love people and we love stories, I think.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I never really realized how much like storytelling resonated with me until I
Mhm.
started a podcast. But,
Yeah.
it's really such an important part of our life and our legacy and all of
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
it's
Indeed.
important to do it, but you also want to make your story interesting. So long-winded isn't always the best.
I
But like you
know.
said, practice is what we all need. We
Mhm.
just have to stretch the muscles we haven't used before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about the stretch for sure. So now, Julie, I have to say, one of the things that I really admired about you is that you're very purposeful driven. And as I mentioned, you not only are a podcaster, but you help individuals like we do with getting their podcast off the ground. Why do you feel our messages are important? And why is there room for more podcasts out there?
Yeah, I think people think, "Oh, there's so many. I shouldn't do it." And it's like, well, yeah, there are, but there's a very small percentage that are active.
Mhm.
And pod what I love about podcasting is there are so many options.
Yeah, yeah,
So what I always tell people, the great thing is you get to choose what it looks like for you, right?
yeah.
5 minutes a day, an hour a month, whatever. But
Mhm.
storytelling is really important because storytelling is like our history, our legacy,
Yeah,
what we leave behind. And I learned
indeed.
that powerfully through podcasting myself and with friends.
Mhm.
And what I always say, especially to women, I say there are not enough women's voices out in the world, and there are not enough in
Yes,
podcasting.
that's
So if I
right.
can help one more, then
Mhm.
then that's my kind of purpose driven of helping
Yeah.
others start it.
I'm so glad you said that because I think that for many individuals, right, they think that who is going to want to listen to me? Or what do I have to say? Or there's a lot of other people out there doing it better or who have, fill in the blank and with the things that we tell ourselves when it comes to compare and despair. But ultimately, I remind individuals that there is only one of you who can say the things that you say in the way that you say them. And at times, we need someone to say that to us in the way that they do it. And that makes a big difference in the world for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I often will say, you don't know who needs to hear it, but there's somebody
Hmm.
that needs to hear it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
especially with women, when we start talking, we start bonding over the different aspects of our lives that we're connected with. Like you mentioned, we're both fur mamas, and that connects
Yeah.
us. But,
Yeah.
we're also women. We all go through the
That's
same
right.
things physically, hormonally. I've realized
Hmm.
now, for how long I was struggling with perimenopause, menopause, all of that, and I didn't even
Hmm.
know. And,
Um,
there's just so many aspects for women that if we share our stories, we're going to
hmm.
connect and have that community, but we're also going to help someone because we all are going through something. And sometimes we just need to hear that it's okay, that it's normal, whatever it may be.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Normalizing what we go through, it's such a way that for me in particular, I have grown tremendously. I think that again, we tend to go to the despair and compare and think that we are the only ones. But when I started to hear from other women, hey, I feel or I've done or I know what you're thinking, and I moved past that, right? Then that was one of the things that I thought, "Oh, okay, I'm not broken." And feeling that you're not alone, that you're not broken, definitely boosts your confidence in so many different levels.
It's so true. And, we're our own worst enemy. We talk to ourselves in our head in not nice ways. Often I've been doing it myself the last
Mhm,
week for some reason.
mhm,
But sometimes it just helps us to heal to put it out there too. It's not
mhm.
even about who may need to hear it or, learns from it.
That's
I found
right.
with myself with grief, with mental health, with
Mhm,
physical health, that by talking about it and saying it kind of allows me to release it and not
mhm.
focus on it. And I think so many women focus on negative things all the time, and it keeps
Yeah.
us from fully being ourselves. And no
Mhm.
matter how amazing women are, we all go through it in our heads.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that this is such a good point to kind of expand on because not only are you a podcaster, but you help other podcasters too in working and getting onto other shows and being a good guest. And obviously, if we have a podcast, we're going to talk, and we're going to share our stories, and hopefully someone resonates. But now let's take it to a different level, podcasting with others and getting on a show and being a guest. For the individuals that maybe are growing a business or maybe have a message but don't think that they would be a good guest, what is your advice for them?
Well, I always say just start, just try because you don't
Mhm,
know until you do it. Before I started my first podcast, I did a couple guesting just to see what it was and how they
mhm,
do it and what they say to me and all of that. And I'm guesting
mhm,
now for the same reasons. I want to see what other podcasts are doing, learn from them, but also
mhm.
share.
Yeah.
So I talk about how to be an awesome podcast guest. And so part of that is doing your research.
Mhm.
Is if you've never been a guest before and you want to start, maybe start with someone you know who has a podcast or something that maybe is brand new because, they're not looking for certain things in their guests. They just want to start. So
Right.
that's a good way to start in terms of feeling comfortable. But another is just ask a friend to get on Zoom with you and practice.
Oh,
Like I've
such a good
offered
idea.
I've offered that for people, and I probably am going to start maybe doing something regularly. It's just a space for
Mhm.
you to come and I will interview you, just,
Yeah.
general interview questions, but that helps you get the feel of what could be asked, what you might talk about. And, I think for a lot of people, they just think, oh, I should be guesting, but you need a strategy, you need a purpose. You don't want to
Mhm.
just start guesting with no real focus of the things you want to talk about or what you want to promote. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that is something I'm finding more and more as I meet women is they need more help figuring out how to do it but
Mhm.
also how to make it strategic for their business.
Yeah. One of the things that you said is totally on the money. Do your research about the shows that you want to get on. And I think that, I do appreciate a lot of the individuals that reach out to me. And by the way, I am starting to get a lot of people reach out and I feel so bad because not everybody is the right fit for me. And
Right.
not everybody is someone who I feel would be of service to the listeners, right? And when I think of individuals that are coming on the show, I'm always looking for the person who my audience members want to hear from, the questions that they want to ask. And a lot of times, I'm not going to say what it is, but it was a gentleman selling a gentleman's product for mostly guys in their 20s. And I thought, dude, come on. This is not the
Yes.
one for you. I appreciate you thinking that this would be great, but it's not the right thing. How do you start doing research on the podcast?
Well, I can say as a host, I have the same issue. I get cold reach outs pretty much every day, DMs, emails, and it is frustrating when I start reading and I realize a sentence or two in, you haven't looked at what my podcast is about. You haven't
100%.
listened. And even
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like, you realize because I have one about pets. It's the story of my pet, and you're asking
Yeah.
to come on talking about your business book or whatever. So
Mm,
the first thing I always say to people in doing your research is because you don't want to waste your time or their time. And as hosts,
mhm.
we we have limited time.
Yeah.
But one of the things I tell people to do is go to listennotes.com and put in
Yeah.
keywords topics you want to talk about and you
You
can
bet.
start to see what podcasts are coming up.
Mhm.
I say listen notes because it gives you a lot of info but it
Yep.
also gives data like how often, latest episode, rank, all
Mhm.
these things that you can't
Yeah.
necessarily see if you're searching in a podcast app.
Mhm.
And I am a researcher. That's what I did in my past life. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to help people with that aspect and really
Mhm.
like some basic things they can be searching for or looking for.
Mm.
But, that's also why I use programs like Podmatch because Podmatch asks us when we're setting
Yeah.
up a profile, like, what are your tags? What are your
Yeah.
niches?
Yeah.
What is all these things that allows me to see and go like, that's a good fit or that's not. And then that's
Mhm.
really a better way to move through it instead of just saying yes to any offer you get.
Yeah, 100%, and I'm so glad that you brought up Podmatch and I love Podmatch. We know, Alex in person as well. I met him through Clubhouse, believe it or not, back in the day. And I just love his heart for podcasters. And when he said he was building this thing, I'm like, yeah, count me in. Why not? I'll go in there. And now it is so fun to see what an amazing community is become where people can really go in and connect and that you have all the information at your fingertips,
Right.
which is so good. Now, you also, as we mentioned, are have a podcast, but also are a pet mom. And your podcast, you advocate. Advocacy is something that is so important in this world. Tell me a little bit about the advocacy that you do and why did you start that?
So back when I first started my coaching business after the pandemic, I was taking all the courses like we do,
Yep.
and one of those was about podcasting. And so I spent 6 months trying to start around what I was doing, which at the time was career coaching. And it never got off the ground because I wasn't like waking up excited to talk
Mhm.
about careers and resumes. So I kind of pushed it to the side and said, let's just do it for fun. Let's see if I even
Mhm.
like it. So I got on Zoom with some friends and we talked about our pets. And I put out a few episodes, didn't edit at all. And people started listening, and then people started reaching out to be on. Like,
Mhm.
what you will learn is everyone loves to talk about their pets.
You think?
Yes.
I love
So,
to talk about my pets all the time.
yes. And I mean, that's how
Yeah,
social media started, was cat videos,
that's
right?
right. Yes,
So
ma'am.
what happened was, first I realized, oh wow, there are a lot of people out there like me. You know, pet parents, we love our animals, we want to help.
Mhm.
And then I started interviewing people who actually work in animal shelters,
Mm,
rescues. And as I did that, someone who I have always considered myself an animal advocate ever since I was little and first learned about
mm,
PETA, I realized I knew such a small amount of what the reality was in the animal rescue world.
mhm,
And so for me, it was the guests that kind of guided me in
mhm,
that direction of sharing the stories of people who are fostering, people who are volunteering, people who
mhm.
adopt, all these things. And then I really realized the need for it because as we got further away from 2020, the shelters started filling up.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people adopted or purchased animals during the pandemic and then we're going
Mhm.
back to work. A lot of people were breeding because they didn't get them spayed or neutered early
Yeah.
enough. So, since that time, we are under a huge overpopulation crisis in the US.
Mhm.
And so, what I realized was, as I got more into podcasting and switching it to that's what my business is focused on, that the pet podcast was more of my passion, my side
Mhm.
thing, but it was my way of giving back. Since I started the
Yeah.
podcast, I volunteered, I fostered, I even worked for a while at one of my local shelters, but that wasn't something I could maintain at that level as my business grew. So for
Mhm.
me, my podcast about pets is really my place to use my time and energy to help animals. And
Mm.
so advocacy really is about educating people.
That's
I've
right.
realized people don't know what high kill shelter means or no
Yeah.
kill shelter means, or why spay and neutering is important just
Mhm.
in general for your pet's health. So that was kind of my focus, that it wasn't just going to be fun and talking, it was going to really have a purpose.
Mhm.
And I've met so many amazing people who dedicate their entire life to helping animals, that this is a little thing I can do for them by sharing their stories, sharing their programs, asking people to help them. So that's
Mhm.
really where the advocacy came in, was just kind of an evolution. But it also connected me with a lot of amazing people I never would have met if I
Yeah.
hadn't started that podcast. So I love being a part of that world of animals because I've always been passionate about it.
Mhm.
But it also, that passion for animals helped me to learn podcasting in
Right.
ways that maybe others might not. So what I love about that podcast is it reminds me why I started, just for fun, for the love of something, but that it can grow into something you never expect. And
Yeah.
pretty much every woman I've met who has a podcast, that podcast has changed their life in some way. And so
Mm.
now I realize that
100%.
that's my passion within podcasting, is to help women do that. Now, starting a podcast isn't right for everybody. And so what I'm realizing is a lot of my coaching is focused on, who are you? What is your business? And what's right for you? Is it
So
guesting? Is
good.
it hosting? Is it both?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
we only have so much time in the day.
No, and I think that that's where a lot of people get burnt out because they
Mhm.
think they have to do everything. I was just talking to someone yesterday, one of the guys from Buzzsprout actually, and there's such a trend. And by the way, I'm on YouTube. But I don't think that when I first launched my podcast, I would have been able to go into YouTube, even though I have all the support in the world, right? Handsome hot husband is along my side. He's the tech. I don't have to worry about the tech. And that made it great. But if I had to add one more thing to the mix, then I don't know if I would still be podcasting 5 years out. And I think that that's one of the things that is the challenge for many individuals, that, they see the Joe Rogans of the world or the Call Her Daddies of the world, and they think that they need to emulate that in, yes. Should you be visible? Of course, but pick one thing. pick one thing, learn it, do it well, and then you can start to branch out because
Absolutely.
otherwise you're going to go into the pod fade, which we talked about.
And you know what I've realized in business in general, but definitely in podcasting, is you have to have realistic
Yeah,
expectations.
agreed.
Podcasting is a marathon. It is not a sprint. I talk to people
Yeah.
all the time that they didn't see direct new clients from their podcast for 2 or 3 years. Like, it takes time. But I
Hmm.
also recently heard from some marketing people that on average, people need to interact or hear you for 11 hours before they are ready to buy.
Yes. 100%. 100%. And people think that, oh, they're going to find me on the podcast. They're going to listen to me on somebody else's show. And then they're going to
Mhm.
come download my stuff and they want me. And that's
Right.
not really how it works. I think that
I
we need
remind
to
myself
really see that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remind myself of that when I'm like, "Oh, I guess I should post again." It's like one post isn't gonna get people into my program or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And so a lot of what I do is ask people, "What are you doing right now? Are you
Yeah.
guesting? Do you do video? Do you do live stream?"
Yeah.
Because people should start where they already are. So,
Hmm.
people who are already on YouTube, great. Build that up and then pull that and put it into a traditional podcast feed.
Yeah.
But if they don't have that, like you said, you don't have to do it all at once. I've been on
Yep.
YouTube too, but some of it is just my image with the audio over it. Some of it is full
Mhm.
video. I don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we get caught up in the well, they're doing all these things. Like, yeah, because they have a team behind them doing
Yes. And
those
we don't ever
things.
talk about that there. A lot of people think it's easy. And by the way, I don't do it all. We can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at that point in my business. Like, where can I let go and let someone else do for me? Because I can't. And
Yeah.
oftentimes I don't get everything done. And personally, I've
Yeah.
taken pauses on both of my podcasts at different times because of life,
Mhm.
because of, my business needed something else at that moment. So
Mhm.
it isn't realistic to see yourself doing guesting, doing your own, doing this because we only have so much time and energy.
Yeah.
But everyone should be tapping into podcasting in some way because it's not going away. It
Yeah.
continues to grow. And what we see over and over again is the podcasts that do well are the ones that are authentic, that
Mhm.
are consistent, and aren't modeling themselves after someone else, right?
Yeah,
One of
absolutely.
the one speaker I heard at Podfest said, "You don't need ads, you don't need sponsors. You're
Mhm.
the sponsor, your business is the
Yes.
ad, and you should be putting it out there as such." It was a light
Absolutely.
bulb for me.
Yeah. I've been the sponsor on my podcast from the very beginning, but it was something that, I am lucky. Dan, again, we are podcast listeners, and he follows some really big podcast, and he's like, "No, we're not gonna go after advertisers. We are our advertisers, and these little things make a world of difference and take away some of the crazy of, shooting for the thousands gazillion downloads, because you can have 100 people listen to your podcast, and if they're just consistent and if they're coming, then they will eventually become your clients because you've gained their trust. You've nurtured them. But like you said, you have to nurture them for a good, period of time.
Yeah, and it's true because I will say my pet podcast is not a part of my business, but it is. It's my proof that I know
Yeah,
how to podcast,
that's
right?
right.
And my very first client that I helped start her own podcast was because she heard my pet podcast, wanted to do one about dogs, and had been told by someone else that was stupid and nobody would listen. Then she heard me and said, "Hey, I think she'll know if this is a good idea." And so you never know who is listening and how that could help your business, whether it's by clients or referrals or speaking or
Hmm.
whatever. But you definitely want to start where you are. And
Yeah.
so, a couple of the clients I've worked with, one was already doing online summits. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, she's sitting on content that could be put out in other places for more
Hmm.
people to discover her.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it with podcasting is figure out what you're already doing and how you can use that within podcasting,
Mm,
and not have unrealistic expectations that you're going to blow up overnight. My
yeah.
pet podcast has been going for over 3 years. I only have like 5,000 total downloads. That's it. I only have 50 some episodes because I've taken breaks when I needed to.
But that's
But it's
great.
but it's still listed as a top
Mhm.
5% podcast
Yeah,
because I have consistent listeners. Even when I
right.
take a break, they're there when the new one comes out.
The beauty is that, again, you set the tone, you set the schedule, and also that's the thing, right? That it's an evergreen content that then people come and find you, and they can go back to your back catalog. So it's not that all of a sudden, it's going to go away like a Facebook post that in a couple of
Right.
hours is irrelevant.
That is what I love about podcasting is we have so
Yeah.
much more control over it. How we
Mhm.
put it out, where, when, what we use it for. And, there's nothing wrong with the fact that I know there's episodes sitting there that people are listening to
Yeah.
that I put out 2 or 3 years ago because
Mhm.
it's still
Wow.
connecting to people and it's still making a difference. But I've
Yeah.
also myself had to rethink. I started a second podcast about launching a podcast. And then I realized
That's
that's
awesome.
not what everybody's asking me. People are asking me about guesting and all these
Yeah.
different things. So I paused it
Good
because I
call.
didn't want to keep putting it out with content that wasn't actually what my clients needed. So I'm relaunching with a focus on podcasting more broadly
Mhm.
because we also have to think about if it's not what people need, they're not going to keep listening. Right.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. That's what people don't get, right? And I think that even I've done it, and this is one of the things that if I had to go back, right, these are the things that I would correct. Sometimes we think, okay, I gotta do, oh, this is what I want to do, but is that what people need? Is that what they want? Is that what they're looking for? And even in your business, sometimes we want to, you know, sell people a boat, but they're not looking for a boat. They want to take a plane. Oh, a lot of different things.
that's a great example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's definitely one of the lessons that I wish I would have learned much sooner, much, much
Mhm.
sooner. So tell me a little bit about some of the advocacy that you do for pets.
So I really promote education around if you want to get a pet or if you want to add another pet to your family is why adoption is really important
Hmm.
because there are so many animals in shelters right now that may lose their life because there just aren't enough homes for all of the cats and dogs in our country.
No.
And I live in California, which is one of the worst states.
Hmm.
And I live in a county that has like a 40% euthanasia rate, which it breaks my heart.
Wow.
And I just
Wow. I
really
did
want
not
people
realize it
to,
was so high.
yep, it's very high. And
Oof.
unfortunately with the economy and other craziness in our world, it's not going to get any better. It really is a widespread issue from city and county and state. It's about spay and neuter. It's about
Hmm.
laws that make people spay and neuter their pets, but it's
Hmm.
also about the fact that veterinarian care is very limited.
Yeah.
We don't have enough vets in our
Hmm.
country,
Yep.
and there aren't enough in the pipeline in school for to correct it. And
Hmm.
people don't realize what a stressful world animal rescue and veterinary medicine is. Veterinarians actually have one of the highest suicide rates of medical
No, I never
providers.
knew that.
Yeah.
That's that's sad. Ooh,
Yeah.
breaks
So
my
see, this is
heart.
the kind of thing that realize you're not alone. It's not just you. You can't find good vet care. What are the programs in your area? Like
Mm.
I now know I have spay neuter options at various places and, low cost
Mhm,
vaccines. So advocating for me is really about education is do you know what's available to you? Please try these things before you give up your
mhm.
pet. But
Yeah.
also if you're considering a pet, we don't just say adopt, don't shop because we're
Mhm.
animal rights people and we're yelling at you. We're saying it because breeders need to be
Yeah.
stopped because they don't care for
Yeah.
their animals
Yeah.
and a myriad of other reasons. But I know people say, oh, I could never go to a shelter. It's so sad. I go, yeah, imagine what it's like for the animals that have to live there and have no idea what's going to happen next. And
Yeah.
so I have learned that I have to practice what I preach. So, volunteering in a shelter and cleaning out cat cages. Bonus, you get to pet all the cats and kittens as you're cleaning.
Mhm.
But, you got to really get in there and see what's going on, understand what is happening in your own community. And one of the things I ask every guest to come with is the name and information of at least one animal rescue or nonprofit in their area, because the
Mhm.
other piece of advocacy is the visibility.
Yeah.
And I know the power of social media, and I've seen dogs saved from the 24-hour notice to be
Yeah.
euthanized in my own area because we're
Mm.
pushing
Yeah.
videos about them, and people
Mhm.
come from hours away to adopt this amazing dog.
Yeah.
And so for me, advocacy is a myriad, but it really is about
Mhm.
education and action,
Yeah.
and getting people to understand that a $5 donation a month, or a
Mhm.
$20 this, or giving your old towels or an
Yeah.
hour of your time can really make a
Mm.
big difference
Yeah.
for the overcrowded shelters as well as the rescues. The rescues are having a hard time now
Yeah, they
too.
are. They are. I see that all the time in my town, and definitely it's heartbreaking. There was actually, interestingly, that you're bringing this up. There was a little pug in one of the Facebook groups that I belong to here in town, and this woman went ahead and took it in as a foster, but it came from a breeder, and she said there's a sister to this little dog, and that the breeder has no interest in taking care of them because they're struggling, they're not healthy,
Right.
and she's like, I really want to save this other dog, and I'm thinking like, and these are the kind of dogs, a pug and a Boston Terrier. There's so many that people pay thousands of dollars for.
I know it breaks my heart when
Yeah,
I see that, because I'm thinking, do you know how many pets you could save with that? 500 or
yeah,
$1,000? And
I
I will
know.
always say I have nothing against any breed. I love all
No.
animals.
Yep.
But part of the issue with breeders is them breeding, especially with dogs, the
Mhm.
flat-faced dogs, which
Yep.
people don't realize are not a natural breed. That
Mhm.
came through genetic testing and breeding.
Yep.
And a lot of times, animals, cats and dogs with flat faces have a lot of health issues.
Yeah.
Breathing, sinuses, all these things. And I have a friend who has a pug, and that dog has been to the vet more since they got
Mm.
him than any other animal. So
Yeah.
some of it is also educating on, it's not just about what's a cute animal,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
That and right now you can pretty much find everything in shelters because it's
Yeah.
just so
Oh, no,
bad.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I
And
think that if people only realize, I have Maltese, and the Maltese came to us because my boss passed away
mm,
and her family couldn't keep the dog. So I took Simba, and he's been with us since 2017, and he's our baby, but and we love Maltese. We love him. And if it leaves, which I hate to always think about that, um, and we wanted another Maltese, there's a Maltese rescue. And
right.
I've been actually following the Maltese rescue, the Metropolitan Maltese Rescue in New York City, my friends. They have two dogs, Salt and Peppa, and they're up for adoption. So if you want to help a couple beautiful Maltesers, that
I
would
love
be a
that.
really great place to go. And if it were up to me, listen, I'd be bringing them home. But Dan has
Do.
said that he has a two dog maximum, and currently we are at three.
Hey, I get it. My husband is that.
Yeah.
It has to be, because we all have to have that person, because I would have
Right.
50 dogs and cats at
Oh,
this
I
point.
know. Me
But
too. I
I'm so
would.
glad
Yeah.
you mentioned that, because that is something I tell people. If there's a certain breed you like or want to have, there's probably a rescue. There's
Mhm.
golden retriever rescues, there's doodle
Yeah.
rescues, there's pug rescues, because
That's right.
there
Mhm.
there aren't enough homes for all the animals being born, and breeders keep doing it because they think they
Mhm.
can make money, and then when they don't, they're not giving them vet care, they're dumping them on the street, or some people put animals in boxes and crates
Mhm.
and just leave them outside shelters. It's
Yeah.
awful.
It's
But
awful.
so if there's an animal you like, I will bet you money, even if it's not in your local area, it's
Mhm.
somewhere that they
Yeah.
specifically. I've met people who do greyhounds that used to be racing
Yeah.
dogs. There's pretty much a rescue for everything. But yeah,
Absolutely.
and also search Pet Finder. You can
Mhm.
search by
Yeah.
location, by breed, by age. But also, you mentioned that you you got your dog because someone had passed. People hear shelter animals and they think, oh, they're all bad behavior. Oh, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
No, they're there because their people can't afford to care for them because they lost
Hmm.
their home, because someone has
Yeah.
died or someone has
That's
been put
right.
in assisted living. When
Right.
I was helping with the dog adoption events, there was this one dog that I can visually remember terrified,
Mm.
shaking in its kennel, shaking in
Yeah.
the little crate we put it in. And what I had to do was scoop him up and just hold him. And it took about 30 minutes before the shaking stopped.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
before I could feel the dog start to relax a little bit. People don't
Yeah.
realize the trauma that a lot of these animals
Hmm.
are going through. And
Yeah.
this is also your reminder, if you are listening to this and you are a pet parent, please go right now and figure out who could care for your pets if
That's
something
right.
happened to
You
you.
need to create a plan. And I there's an organization in California called Frosted Faces.
Mm.
And that's the organization. When people are sending me, I've told, there's several people that are part of my family that's who they donate to rather than sending me a gift, because they take only elderly dogs. Most of them, their owners have passed away, or like you said, have gone into assisted living, and they didn't have a plan. A lot of them are also bonded pairs, which always breaks my heart. And the beautiful thing about Frosted Faces, and I'm going to put the link also in the show notes for them, because they actually, if you adopt a dog from them, your vet care, they take care of that for life, which, it's
Amazing.
amazing. And there is no fee for the adoption as well. And yeah, and I have to tell you, my dogs are senior dogs now, and they are 12, respectively, Yogi and Simba, and well, Junior's 8, but they are really fun dogs. They have a lot of energy. They keep you going, and they bring you oh so much more love than I could ever give to anybody else. So yeah, it's
I
so
yeah,
good.
I have a soft spot for senior dogs and cats. We
Mhm.
currently have 3 and cats, and our oldest Charlie is almost 16, and
Mm,
he's a diabetic and doesn't run around like he used to,
yeah.
but he still jumps up and makes his little scratchy meow when he sees me come home. And
Yeah,
one of the reasons we don't currently have dogs is because he doesn't handle change well. He has
I
anxiety,
believe
he
it.
always has. And we're like, you know what? He deserves to live his golden years out in
Yeah,
peace with,
that's right.
not a lot of changes. And then someday we'll get to, add other animals.
Right,
But
right.
my husband came home one day from work and said, so and so did this. I can't believe they're not going to actually treat their dog for that.
Ugh,
How could they do that? Because, like, we
yeah,
couldn't imagine it. Now,
yeah.
everybody has their own reasons for those
No,
things,
for
but
sure.
so many animals end up in shelters and rescues because they're older and need more care or need more vet appointments or need medications. And it's like, there's probably somebody who could help you with that. Please look at your resources before you give up an
Mhm.
animal. But also, if you're willing to foster and adopt older animals, you are an angel. And
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's such an important thing for us to do for them.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom moved in with us, as most people who listen to the show know, and my dogs bring her a lot of joy. And I often think, maybe there's a way for me, and there's a lot of people who have animals, and that's a really great way, to find out if there's organizations that can help you train animals and take them to places where people would just love to have someone cuddle with them and make them smile.
Yeah, people don't realize that therapy dogs really are just cuddle dogs or
Yeah, they are.
cats. They're just there to let you pet them, to sit with you. And I've had many guests talk about how they've
Yeah.
had therapy animals they've taken to, well, one of my guests, Joanne, had Smiley the blind golden retriever,
No.
and she put him through the training to be a therapy dog. And what he
Mhm.
did was he would go to schools and libraries and sit with
Aw.
little kids as they read to make them comfortable reading aloud and learning to read. And there's an organization where I live, Miracle Mutts, that does it too. They go
Very
to,
nice.
senior living. You just don't
Mhm.
know the power of a purr from a cat
Yes,
or a
so
wagging
good.
tail from
That's
a
right.
dog. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
So good, so good. I could talk to you all day,
I,
Julie. You're just my kind of person. We are so aligned in so many different things. Now, You have some great things that you're doing in addition to the pet communities, but you really know the importance of networking for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. What is the importance and how do you help individuals do that?
So I will say the two things that have kept me in business, both as a coach and a podcaster, are networking and community. And without those, I wouldn't be
Mm,
here. And
yeah,
so
great.
I really talk about, the importance of networking, but being strategic in the groups you go to.
Mhm.
Like make it worth your time. So one of the things I did last year was I created my own community called the Women's Podcaster Party. And it's
Nice.
for women, podcasters, guests, speakers, or anyone who wants to be one of those things to just
Mhm.
come and meet other people and network. But I've also started doing a featured speaker in those events.
Oh,
So it's
very
really a
fun.
space for women to connect, to learn from each other, to support each other, whether it's
Right.
guests looking for hosts or vice versa.
Mm,
Because I always say is I love my podcast communities that are bigger, like Podfest, who have,
right.
everyone is included, but women, we talk about different things on our podcasts
Oh,
and we
100%.
talk about things differently than men
Yeah.
do. And there are things we want to talk about or ask questions that we don't necessarily always feel comfortable in
Mm,
larger networking
yeah.
situations. So
Agreed.
that's why I created that space because, women and non binary people, we need more voices out in the
Mhm.
world right now more than ever. But also, I just want to support people to realize that whatever you have to say is important and there's
Mhm.
a place for you to share it.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. I mean, I listen, I love everything that you do. I think people need to connect with you. You are one of these givers. You are incredibly fun to be around and definitely creating a ripple effect through the support and the friendship that you offer people that are coming into your universe. Tell me how people find you and where do they find you most? Where are you hanging out these days online?
I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook, but I am on YouTube and LinkedIn as well. You can go to juliemartypearson.com and you'll find all my links, my podcaster party, networking events, workshops I offer, and all the things. So
Yeah, you're very good at
please,
the workshops, by the way. I love that. I saw that. I was peering on your website and I'm like, oh my God, she's good. I like it. I'm going to
and you
sign
know
up
what?
for one of them.
I love it because I've been playing with marketing and one workshop I have done before, I changed one word in the title and then I got more people to sign up. So I just love playing with all of
Yeah.
that. And I also love learning and then passing that on. Like I said,
Me
it
too.
doesn't hurt me to turn someone else into a great guest because then they'll
Oh my
probably
God,
tell
girl.
someone else to
Absolutely.
come. Right.
That's how it works. Is the law of reciprocity. I can always stumble on that word, but it's a true word.
But I think also it's in that compare and despair. Don't compare
Mm,
yourself to
no,
what people put out on social because you
no.
have no idea how long it took them to get to that or how many
Right.
people are working for them and all of that. And what I've also realized as a coach is I'm not right for everyone. And
A hundred
that if
percent.
you're not right for me, I want to find the right person that
I
is. I
know,
want to have a
right?
good referral network
Yeah.
because I'd rather refer you to someone else who in turn may refer a client to me down the
Yeah.
way than to say to someone, "Oh, I can't help you. Sorry." No, that's
No,
not
that listen, there's a fit for everyone, and I know that, I often tell my clients, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that is fine. Because some people, maybe don't like strong tea or don't like sweet tea or whatever it might be, right? So know that a relationship in your community, collaborating with other people that may fall within your same lane means that you can go faster, stronger together. And that's really what matters. Julie, you're going to have to come back. Now, are you applying to Podfest for next year?
I will be.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too. Me too.
It's funny. The first year I went in 2024, it was such a weird experience to be somewhere where I'm like, "Wait, I know you. I think I know."
Right?
It's like we have all
Right,
these
right. Yeah.
friends
I know
online.
we do.
So now I just call it our family reunion.
That's right. It's
Podfest
the
is
family
we
reunion.
know at least once a year we get to see each other and hang out.
Yeah. Well, I am excited to be able to hug you in person again. And thank you again for taking the time to be here, my friend. You're amazing. You're doing some incredible work in the world. And I want to encourage if you are listening today and you want to launch a podcast, you want to learn more about being a guest, and you want to meet a very, very cool person, go hang out with my friend Julie. Also, her podcast, The Story of My Pet, is an incredible show. I'm going to link all of her things on in the show notes. Go and check her out, and of course, tell her you loved her. Find one thing that you're going to implement into your life. Maybe you're going to go and volunteer at a shelter, or you're going to share a little bit more of your financial resources with a shelter, or perhaps you're going to take the first step in being a guest, or even better, launching your own story and your own podcast. You know that we are going to be cheering you on. Thank you so much, Julie. And don't forget, my friends, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Bye now.